Happy Easter, everybody. You know, Easter always makes me think about a lot of stuff, you know. I mean, a lot of you know me, but you don't know what my family was. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about that. My grandmother, Della, was a soloist in church, and she'd go all over the United States. Well, she basically Chicago, Oklahoma City. She had a brother in Chicago. I mean, this is the way I grew up learning how to travel, you see. You get a gig in a church, and then you go see your brother in Chicago and stay for a week, so whatever, you know. But we used to go over to her house on Sundays, especially Easter Sunday, you know. And she'd be cooking, you know, Mom and Dad. We'd all go to church beforehand, and then she'd be over. She went to Broadway Baptist Church, and she'd sing over there, and then we'd go over for dinner, lunch in the afternoon. And I was like, you know, 2, 3 years old. I'd crawl on the piano and start playing stuff, and then she'd show me little songs, you know. It was just a real wonderful time, you know. We should go to church, Southern Baptist Church. Mom couldn't sing, Dad could. He had a very loud bass voice. But, you know, these songs were the songs that I grew up with. That's how I learned to play piano. Some of you may know these songs. They rang in my head all the way through. When I started playing piano, my grandmother would teach me these little songs. I learned to read music. I actually learned to play music, playing church songs before I actually studied classical piano at 5. And my first teacher was a church organist named Joyce Gilstrap Jones. He was going to the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Fort Worth. Now, when I turned 10, she left. Her husband was in the military. And my next teacher was Helen Joyce, who was a church organist at Broadway Baptist, which is where grandmother sang. Before that happened, though, I learned to accompany my grandmother. So we would sing stuff like, I don't know, I can't remember all of them, but I have a whole stack of music. But we also sang a lot from the hymn book. Traditional. We turned to page 294. We'd sing this one. You know. Southern Baptist in Fort Worth, Texas in the 1950s. I found a book that had all these songs in it. But when I hear them, I hadn't thought about it for years. I found a hymnal that had all this stuff in there. And they would do stuff like every Easter we'd do a song like this. Mom couldn't sing, but she'd sing loud. Eventually I taught her how to sing. She was trying to sing too high. And the organist would improvise in between, so I learned how to do that way. Yep, every Sunday. And my dad, he had a very loud bass voice. He would sit about 5 rows, we would sit about 5 rows back from the front. The pulpit was up front. The choir would be singing. It wasn't a big choir, but there were some loud voices in there. One of them was Joe Mulholland. And my dad and Joe would go at it on songs like these, you know. It was it's all quiet. And go, up on the grave he rose, on the Lord, oh, la, 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 la. It would just surprise the heck out of me. And you hear these two guys, up on the grave he rose. Sometimes he'd sing it down like, up on the grave he rose. It was just such a wonderful time. Heroes, heroes, you know, the skies are rolled. Oh, wonderful memories. And then, you know. So many memories. I don't know if it brings back memories for all y'all, but it does for me. And all these songs, you know. growing up was a wonderful time. I know y'all have that same memories too. You think about it, doesn't matter what age you're in. Just takes us back to way back when, you know. My family left kind of early. Mother died in 1994. My dad died in 1981. That was Marion and Travis Young. His brother died in 1976. That was Thurman. My grandmother that taught me piano died in 1969. My grandfather that bought me my first piano and coaxed my parents into giving me piano lessons, died in 1959. I was 10 years old. Della, who was my grandmother that taught me piano, her husband died in 1956. And Pappy, who was Holman Swore, his wife died when I was 6 months old. That was 1948. It's all memories, all good memories. And all those memories and all those wonderful people encouraged me, not encouraged me, but inspired me to write songs. I like the songs. But it was all, you know, one of the first songs that I wrote was when my grandmother died, and then my uncle when he died. That was probably the first song that I wrote. About 2 months before my father died, he was going in and out of the hospital, so I sat in a parking lot in Las Vegas and I wrote out a song. Went back home, recorded it, gave it to my father. He was in the hospital. I gave him my cassette machine. He played it for every nurse that came in. He loved that song. I love that story. For years, my mother kept getting on me all the time. She would say, "You wrote a song for your uncle, and you wrote a song for your father. When are you going to write a song for me?" And I said, "Well, let me see. The song that I wrote for my uncle was about a month after he died. The song for my father was about 2 months before he died. So if I start writing a song for you, you better go to the doctor." Anyway, this is the song that I wrote for him. It's called "Song for Travis." Happy Easter, everybody.